Hey everyone, Margarita here. I'm going to talk more in this video today about the Tony Bologna situation and more about the plot to take me out, which was involving my mother, her criminal group, and Tony Bologna. So at one point, this was in the very beginning, the first couple weeks that I had been talking to him. And this was shortly after I had the third near-death experience where I cracked my head off the ground at Walmart and was deceased on the floor for 15 minutes and came to without medical intervention and then kicked out of the hospital again with no treatment, which had happened numerous times throughout the course of our severe injuries. And like I stated in the previous videos, I have a lot of ongoing effects that I suffer from my initial injury not being treated properly, and all the additional re-injuries and re-exposures that I'd had along the way. And at this point, I was still treating the initial injury from 2018, and this was June of 2023. Where I am today in 2026, I am still treating that initial injury and all the additional re-injuries I've had along the way. So at this point, that was my fourth brain injury that had occurred. It was actually two brain injuries in one. From breathing in the wildfire particles, traveling from point A to point B. It had cut off the oxygen to my brain, and then I had cracked my head off the floor and had an open head wound as well. Now, in the manner in which I'm treating this, I'm self-paying out of pocket at a private hyperbaric facility, which is regrowing the brain tissue. It's doing two things. It's removing the original carbon monoxide overload, any additional particles that I'm taking in, and then it's also slowly regrowing the brain tissue and sealing it shut. So where I was at this point, the brain tissue was still pretty open, and it had just gotten significantly reopened and had a further injury on top of the already existing injuries. Now, all the way up until this point, from the time of my injury to this point, and even where I am today, flying in an airplane is something that I can't do, and I'm not even sure if I'll ever be able to do for numerous reasons, because that's how extreme mine and my son's injuries are. There's numerous problems with that. The altitude is one problem. The amount of people breathing in the airplane is another problem. The amount of carbon monoxide that's still overloaded in our systems and in our brains is another problem. There's just too many problems with it, and it's extremely risky and can become life or death very fast. So it's not something that should ever even be attempted. Now, I did state this to Tony Bologna in advance of having this conversation with him. So at this point, he had given off numerous red flags that he didn't believe that the injury was real. And it had been numerous different things we'd talked about. And you could tell he was still going around the injury, just trying to act like if that's not what's going on and act as if I'm a normal person. And like as if, my reality was just that of a normal person, as if none of what's been going on was actually going on. And I made the whole thing up because that's also what he had been told by my mother and her criminal group. Except for none of it was faked. It's all exactly what I say it is. We've all been through, my son and I have both been through everything that I say we've been through. That's 100% facts. So he just assumed that I was just making all this up for whatever reason. And he just kept trying to operate like I'm a normal person, and I'm just going to go ahead and do what normal people do if he continues to act like it's not real. And at no time is that ever going to be able to happen. Even where I am today, we're still treating that initial injury. Our lives are going to be modified for the rest of our lives. And most people in the world, if they had had the degree of injury we had, first of all, they wouldn't have survived. They wouldn't have enough money to pay out of pocket to survive. But people don't have that type of money to regrow the brain tissue enough to even have the minimal quality of life we have from time to time today. So at this point, he's still operating in that manner, just acting like I'm going to act like a normal person if he continues to act like it's not real, and I'm just going to agree to do normal people stuff at some point. Now, because I'd been living this way for numerous years, and I was literally coming out of complete incapacitation for, it was about a 3.5 year period where it was complete incapacitation, unable to go anywhere at all. Except for treatment and back. And we were barely even getting there and back during that time. This was us just barely starting to come out into the world, and why that short amount of distance. It wasn't really that short of a distance, but that traveling during the wildfires, and it was about an hour drive to where I went, an hour drive back that day, maybe a little over that. And that's what had caused that significant re-injury. So even something that small was enough for me to not be here anymore. And like I said, my brain tissue is more open and more re-injured than my son's because I've had numerous significant re-injuries, whereas he hasn't had any re-injuries, just re-exposures. So that's how serious it is. That's how fragile our situation is. But at this point, Tony Bologna and I were at dinner, and because the fake drug test, the falsifying of the drug test, and tampering with it, the probation officer did all of that, but they were in on it together. Because that did not pan out and it didn't work, and he had to present the actual results to the court, where it then proved, there was no problem there. It didn't work. The original plan didn't work. So now he's having to come up with a different manner in which to get rid of me. And just as my mother and her criminal group had already been doing in the background for some time, they were needing to find a way to either get me deemed mentally incompetent, incarcerated, or deceased. Didn't matter how it was done. That's what the goal was. So at this point, they're looking for the next avenue. He's got to carry something else out to make this happen. And when we were at dinner, he was just trying to go around what I have going on in the injuries, and just casually stated something about going to Arizona with him because that's where his dad and his brother live, and said how he wanted me to come with him. Just casually acting as if my life is normal and I don't have these severe injuries and these problems. So, immediately I'm, living in the reality that I live in, which this is my new normal. It's been for some time now. So this is normal to me. I'm already aware I can't get on a plane. And I just said, I can't fly. But his intention behind all of that was one of two things. It was either to get me out there, and maybe he knows some people that could have gotten rid of me for him, or the other option would have been, because this is what he tried to do numerous times throughout the course of the following few months, was get me to get extremely drunk and then either get me to drive or just get me really messed up and leave me someplace that I didn't know I was at. So then I would disappear, or that way I'd get arrested, and then I would be in another state far away. And if I did that, then I would definitely be doing prison time. And then I was already on probation. So then I would have also been in additional trouble where I would have been locked up long term. So that's what I'm pretty sure the plan was. But it also could have been for me to just be careless and get on the plane. And odds are I probably wouldn't have survived the flight, especially at that point in the injuries and what was going on. And then I just wouldn't be here anymore. But because of what happened the following few months, I'm pretty sure it had to do with getting me out there, attempting to get me really drunk. And then I'd just end up arrested, and then I would be locked up long term. And then the job would have been complete. Because at this point, he was still believing the entire false narrative about me, that I have this alcohol problem, I have this drinking problem, I've always had it. And it's not going to take much to get me to do any of these things, and then I'll just be locked up, especially because of what my criminal record looks like on paper. But that's also due to my mother's crimes long term and all the different charges she's managed to get put on me in different ways over the course of time. So like I said, I will talk about this in a different video. I have not talked about it yet. Many of those charges that are under my name I should have never been charged with half of them. A lot of them are fabricated or setups, or there's different circumstances with each one, but I will talk about it down the line. But that's never been my situation. I've never had a problem with alcohol. None of those things are true about me. So that's truly not how I operate at all. But at this point, Tony Bologna definitely thought that it was how I operated, and that he was just going to be able to get me to do these things and it wouldn't be that hard to do. He just really believed all of it. And then he continued to operate that way the several months following, just here in Michigan or Ohio or whatever. That's what he continued to try to do, but it wasn't going to work because that's truly not how I operate or what I have going on. And he just continued to operate as if that was how I operate. So, he told on himself with his own actions and what he kept trying to do and how he was acting. And that's just not a part of my life. That's not what I'm out here doing. And at that time that he wanted me to go to Arizona and get on the plane and do all this, the intention was to do that so that I would not be coming back, and then I would be locked up out there in Arizona and be facing felony charges most likely, and then for leaving the state on probation from Michigan as well. So that's what he was trying to do. But he also wasn't comprehending the injuries, the extreme nature of them. This is all reality. None of that's even possible for me to do. And just kept trying to go around them as he did all those other times. He attempted to do that as well. But what the problem was is he just thought that I was going to agree that I'm just going to go, and then he was going to be able to carry out the job out there, and it wouldn't be hard to do if I really operated in the manner in which he was told I operate, except for the fact that none of that's reality. So it didn't work. But on top of it, I also couldn't go, so it got shut down immediately. But the plan was for that to work, for me to go, and for him to be able to carry that out. Now, let's say I wasn't injured and have the extreme injuries that I have, and I could fly on a plane. And even if I did agree to go, I still wouldn't have done that because that's just not how I operate. I'm busy running business. I have all these matters running. There's all these issues and problems and a lot of things that I have going on. I don't have the ability to incorporate that into my life. But even further, if I wasn't injured, we wouldn't have ever even been eating dinner together, or my life wouldn't have been as severely impacted as it had been at that point, or even today, or any point in the last 10 years. If I wasn't injured, I'd be in a completely different place in life, and we would have never even, probably never even crossed paths, and we definitely wouldn't have been out to dinner. So, yes, the whole point was to get rid of me, get me out there to someplace where I don't know where I'm at, and then get rid of me in that manner. So I guess you could consider this uh, either an attempt at setting me up to get arrested or an attempted capital M. It would have been one of the two, just to get rid of me, and it would have been real quick and easy. And he thought this was going to be, like I said, a quick, easy job. He thought that every step of the way. But that was his intention when he said all of that to me. He just wasn't wanting to live in reality, no matter what we were talking about at any point along the way. He continued to operate the entire time I was talking to him. He continued to operate as if my injuries were not real, as if none of what I had been through was real, as if I had not spent a couple $100,000 out of pocket to get me where I was in that moment, as if that was not still going on and needed to go on going forward for the next couple years going forward. He was just acting like none of it was reality the entire time. And there was at least 100 times he kept trying to go like around reality and operate like that's not what I have going on. So, I mean, he told on himself with that conversation. You could tell that he just kept trying to get me to do things that I wouldn't normally do, just acting like it's possible to do these things. But he's still not comprehending none of this was ever even possible. So he just kept telling on himself repeatedly the amount of times he did something like that. But that was a pretty significant one, just acting like I could just hop a plane and go to another state and just act like I'm a regular person. And I mean, the manner in which he said it all and was leading up to it and what he had said and how he was acting, you could tell that he just didn't believe my injuries were what they really were, and what I have going, my condition isn't what it is. When that's extremely risky, I lose oxygen to the brain really fast just being on solid ground, and that's living a modified life, basically maintaining being homebound and going the basic places I need to take care of things and back, and carrying an up to the second detector 100% of the time. And I still have those issues, so I would never even be able to get on a plane. But his perception of everything and how he kept operating is what kept giving away what he was attempting to do. And like I said, this happened probably at least 100 times in like this 6 or 7 month period where he kept trying to go around reality and act like that's not what's going on. But that was what he attempted to do. I don't know if it was something he came up with or something the group came up with as a whole, and or he offered it and said, oh, I know how to get rid of her real quick. We could just get her out there. And since they believed I'm really this alcoholic, that they figured they could just get me drunk and get me all messed up, and then I wouldn't be coming back to Michigan. I don't know whose idea it was, probably a mix of all of them. But that's just not something that I do. That's not at all what's going on in my life, and it wasn't even possible for me to do. So they messed up bad. The entire group as a whole messed up bad, thinking all these things about me every step of the way. And then, just Tony Bologna's actions every step of the way as well, continuously going around my injuries and my condition, and all of these extreme limitations and being able to do things within a day or in a week, because I really can't see things beyond a week. But sometimes it is one day at a time, or sometimes I can look at it as a week, and it's still that way today with all these re-injuries. I'm not looking at moving forward any further until probably at least 2 years of daily treatment with a better chamber. Once I'm able to purchase a better chamber, minimally $35,000. So that's where I'm at with it, and it could even be longer than that, depending on if there's any future re-injuries or significant re-exposures or what's going on. Uh, but the entire situation, he let the cat out of the bag of what he was attempting to do at that time by acting the way he was acting and continuously going around reality. But told on himself for what he was planning, just continuing to go around reality, was telling on how he perceived things and what he was planning on doing. But still, this is a group effort, and these other people are involved in the plans and how to take me out and get rid of me so they can all get access to the rest of the missing stolen trust fund. So, yeah, I'll be back with more. I just wanted to talk about that real quick, and I'll talk more about some of the conversations down the line in the next video. Thanks. Bye.